Hi everyone, I'm Wilson. I'm the creator of songwhip.com, and I was going to show, after a few people asked how I got my largest contentful paint, or LCP, down to a much better number and improving my Lighthouse score. So it's mainly all to do about images, really. The largest contentful paint is about how long it took from the page load starting to the largest element in the viewport being painted. And most of the time, that's an image, especially on a marketing page. Um, so I'm going to talk briefly, maybe a bit ramblingly, about how I did that. So this is the Songwhip homepage, the current development build that I'm working on. And this is the main image here, this product shot of what the app looks like. So previously, the way I was loading this was just an image tag. And the thing I really wanted to have was this, this nice fade in. I don't like the way images on most websites kind of jank in or progressively load and make it look like a bit of a clunky site rather than an app. Like I want this polished feel across the app, especially on the marketing page. So my first attempt at that was to just, I had an image component in React that was a wrapper around an image tag. And what it would do is it would basically keep the image hidden. And when the React component mounts, I would add an image load listener. And then when the image loads, I would fade the image in. So that was all well and good, and that's currently what I have on this. This is the current production site. So if I refresh here, you can see it's blank for a bit, the image loads, and then it gets faded in. So that's the current implementation. The downside of that was that basically you have to wait for all the bundles to load. And if we look at a performance timeline, we might be able to see, let's look at this Lighthouse trace, hoping it will show me. So this is a trace of the current production site. We've got a few assets being downloaded here. We've got a load more assets being downloaded here. It's kind of a bit of a mess really, because it's been unoptimized. But basically, what happens is you can see the LCP is right back here. And what we've got going on is we've got all our bundles loading here. And then here is the hydration. You can see here it's a Next.js app, so we've got some useful timing marks here which show this is basically all the scripts downloading, and then here is the Next.js hydration. And you can see that there's a big chunk there, and at that point all our bundles load and execute, and then here somewhere in the script I go, check if the image is loaded. If it has loaded, fade it in. And then at that point, you've got the largest contentful paint here after the animation is faded in. So that is actually really far away from the initial page load. You can see we've got 7 seconds or something like that. So yeah, it's a long time. So a few things to speed that up. I'm only going to talk about images in this screencast, but there were lots of other things we did to get get the bundles loading faster and all that, but whatever. So initially, it's all about prioritizing this part of the viewport. So all these images further down were actually loading as well. All these were loading. You could see the other animations that were coming in. All these animations were happening at the same time as the hero, the main one. So and this big image at the bottom with the gig was also loading and fading in. So basically, I shoved the image lazy loading attribute on all of these, so none of these would even trigger being loaded until the user scrolled them in. So that is just a really easy, quick win. Means on that critical path to getting your largest contentful paint metric, none of those other images are playing part. They're not racing or taking resources away from this main image here. So first off, that's good, gets that in place. The second thing that I added, we'll jump back to the newer version here with the nice above 90 green metric. So you might actually see when I scroll down here, these loading in. Those all load in on demand. So if the user never scrolls there, they never get loaded. So it's a nice quick win. I could quickly go and inspect those images, and you can see that they have the loading lazy attribute just here, and that's just a really easy thing to add. The second thing is getting the preload tags in place. So if we look at the source of this page, I know the image is called screenshots. So here you can see in the head of the document, I've put this tag here, which is the image preload. So even before any of the DOM, even before any of these scripts are downloaded, even before the image tag is discovered, you're saying to the browser, look, this image is super important, get it loaded as fast as possible. So that's like high priority in the waterfall in the network stack. So by the time the DOM loads or is rendered, that image should be ready to download. Obviously, with images, you know to keep them as low a resolution as possible. On mobile and desktop, the image is a similar size, so I'm using the same image. It's about 800 pixels, but that's to account for retina displays, and I've also reduced the quality on that. So if we look at the network tab, the actual size of that image is only it's about 42K, so it's not too bad. It could be a lot lower. I may try and use WebP formatting for that if and conditionally render that, but that's another optimization I might do. So that's all good. We basically got the preload tag that tells the browser download as fast as possible. When we don't render any other images on the page except that one in the initial critical above the fold hero. And then the other thing is making sure that we don't even need the bundles to be loaded until for the image to be displayed. So as I said earlier, previously I had I was attaching that onload event listener after the app had been hydrated, after the component had mounted, and then I was waiting for the load event, and I was fading the image in on load. But actually, the really cool trick that Jason, Mr. Preact, told me about was actually using an inline JavaScript hack or trick to get this done even before the bundles have loaded. So the really cool thing, and which was a big light bulb moment for me, was the ability to actually add a callback to this image and fade the image in before or without any dependency on JS bundles. So the JS bundle could even fail to be downloaded and the image would still be faded in. And I can show you in the source how that's done. So it's a bit hard to see in this mess of compressed HTML, but these are the two critical parts here, and I'll show you in my React component because it will be a lot clearer. But I just want you to see that in the initial HTML payload, we've got this inline onload callback. And this is like an old-fashioned JS onload attribute that basically says, when this image tag loads, turn the opacity of the previous sibling, which in my case is a div that has a background image of the screenshot, turn that to 1, and it already has a transition on it in my CSS, so that just fades in. And I'll jump over to the React component to go in a bit more detail about that. So this is the React component. It's called BackgroundImage 2, just because I'm hacking around with different variants. But yeah, so the main markup, which is server rendered by Next.js, we've got an outer div, which acts as the container, and then I've got an inner div which has a background image, and I've got this cheeky image tag, which its only job is to load the image quickly and then to trigger to fade in its previous sibling when that image is loaded. If you don't have the dependency on background images like I do, then you can just you could just use a normal image tag here and just set the this.style.opacity to 1 and make sure the image tag has a transition on opacity. But for this use case, I'm using a background image just because it suited the context better. But yeah, so that's a cool trick, and the main thing is making sure that that's server rendered, so we have no dependency on the bundles. So I've got no use effect or on mount callbacks here at all, like I previously did. So yeah, that's kind of the trick. I don't think I have many other things to say about that, but I might do a few more videos on other parts of the app that help me to optimize that. But as the images were one of the most critical parts to hitting my LCP, then yeah, I'll just show you in the Lighthouse Score how that looks on the timeline. So this is like an incredible difference. You can see here we've got DOM content loaded, we've got first paint, first contentful paint, first meaningful paint, and largest contentful paint. They're all kind of stacked up at the same, almost around the same time, closely. And then document loads here. So actually, we're getting all our meaningful metrics, our important metrics happening before document load. So that's really cool. But if we jump back to the previous one, this is the current production build. You can see we've got first paint here, DOM content loaded, all these are stacked up here, and then we've got document load, and then after that we've got LCP, which is so much further away. And for my case, like that was that inline fading in of the image, removing my dependencies on the bundles, meant that could go right to that could be pushed way before. And it's actually great because it's actually a nice kind of like distraction, hand wavy distraction while the bundles are loading and the app's hydrating. You're giving the user something to look at, like, oh, something's happening, and by the time the image is faded in, all the bundles are ready and the app's interactive. So I feel like it's a really nice UX, and I haven't had to compromise on that. Initially, I was thinking, I'm just going to have to ditch the fade in. If I want to get this metric, I'm going to have to remove the fade in, and I'm going to have to just render the image in place as fast as possible. So I'm really pleased with this solution, and I hope it will help some of you guys too. So let me know if that's helpful, and reach out if you have any questions in more detail. Maybe I've skimmed over stuff that I shouldn't have, but I'm new to this. Give me a break. All right, see you later.